Have you ever looked at the chaotic events unfolding across the globe? The sudden wars that erupt in strategic regions, the economic crashes that decimate the working class while transferring billions to the elite, and the political shifts that happen almost overnight, and felt a sinking suspicion that it was all choreographed, that the chaos isn't random, but rather a carefully written script authored by invisible hands. For centuries, historians and conspiracy theorists alike have whispered about the existence of a shadow government, a select group of elites who meet behind closed doors to decide the fate of nations before the public even knows there is a crisis, acting as the true puppet masters of human history. From the damp, torchlit dungeons of the medieval Knights Templar to the ivy-covered tombs of Yale University and the restricted redwood forests of California, these groups have allegedly shaped our reality for hundreds of years. But to truly understand who they are today and how much control they actually possess, we must first travel back nearly 1,000 years to the original warrior monks known as the Knights Templar. Founded in the 12th century with the humble mission of protecting pilgrims traveling to the Holy Land, they quickly morphed into something much more powerful than simple bodyguards. Because they weren't just soldiers, they were the world's first international bankers who invented the concept of the check. This allowed a pilgrim to deposit gold in London and withdraw it in Jerusalem, a revolutionary system that made the order wealthier than the kings they were sworn to serve. This immense unchecked wealth made them a target for the debt-ridden King Philip IV of France, who in a coordinated strike at dawn on Friday, October 13, 1307, a date that lives on in superstition as the Unlucky Friday, the 13th opened sealed orders to arrest every Templar in the kingdom. They were tortured into false confessions of devil worship and spitting on the cross before being burned at the stake. Yet legends persist that a fleet of Templar ships vanished from the port of La Rochelle the night before the arrests, carrying their vast treasure and their arcane secrets to the rugged coast of Scotland, where they would go underground for centuries. By the time Freemasonry officially surfaced in London in 1717, it had absorbed these mystical traditions, claiming a direct lineage back to the builders of King Solomon's temple, using architectural tools like the square and compass as symbols for morality, and referring to God not as a religious figure, but as the great architect of the universe. Unlike the warrior Templars, the Masons were thinkers, philosophers, and scientists who quickly infiltrated the highest levels of society, effectively building the foundation of the United States, where the fingerprints of Freemasonry are everywhere. From George Washington wearing his Masonic apron to lay the cornerstone of the U.S. Capitol building to the peculiar street layout of Washington, D.C., which contains Masonic geometry hidden in plain sight. However, a new and far more radical group would infiltrate their ranks in the late 1700s, giving birth to the ultimate conspiracy theory known as the Illuminati. Founded on May 1, 1776, by a professor of canon law named Adam Weishaupt in Bavaria, Germany, the order had a goal that was arguably the first true vision of a new world order, seeking the total abolition of all monarchies, private property, national borders, and religious influence over society. Weishaupt wanted a world ruled strictly by reason and an elite class of enlightened intellectuals. Since he couldn't recruit enough members on his own, he joined the Freemasons and began recruiting from within their lodges, specifically targeting the wealthy and influential, pulling them into a secret circle where they used code names and invisible ink to communicate. By 1784, the Bavarian government discovered the plot and banned the order, forcing Weishaupt to flee. But many historians believe the Illuminati didn't die there, instead going deeper underground and merging fully with the Masonic lodges to export their revolutionary ideas to the New World. While the Illuminati is the most famous name in conspiracy lore, there is a distinctly American secret society that has produced more power players than perhaps any other group in history: Skull and Bones. Based at Yale University and founded in 1832, it is not just a college fraternity, but an incubator for the American elite, housed in a windowless stone building on campus known ominously as the Tomb. Every year, only 15 juniors are tapped to join this exclusive order, and their roster reads like a who's who of American history, including 3 U.S. presidents, Supreme Court justices, and the founders of the CIA. Inside the tomb, rituals are rumored to be bizarre and macabre, involving lying in coffins to be reborn as a bonesman, and allegedly hoarding stolen historical artifacts, including the skull of the Apache warrior Geronimo. While Skull and Bones grooms the youth, there's another gathering where the established leaders of the world go to let off steam and conduct business away from the prying eyes of the public. This place is deep in the redwood forests of Monte Rio, California, known as the Bohemian Grove. Since 1872, this exclusive campground has hosted a 2-week encampment every July for the most powerful men in the world, including every Republican president since Calvin Coolidge, major CEOs, military contractors, and media moguls. The Grove is famous for its extreme secrecy and its bizarre opening ceremony known as the Cremation of Care. This ritual is performed in front of a 40-foot concrete owl statue that serves as the shrine of the Grove. During the ceremony, robe-clad members burn an effigy representing dull care to symbolize casting away the worries of the world. It looks more like ancient pagan ritual than a meeting of modern political leaders. Yet, history was made here. In 1942, the initial planning for the Manhattan Project took place at the Grove, leading to the creation of the atomic bomb. Beyond the forests and university tombs, the structure of modern control became more corporate in the 20th century with the establishment of the Council on Foreign Relations, or the CFR, in 1921. While not secret in existence, it operates with such influence that it has been called the real State Department. But perhaps the most terrifying example of a secret society infiltrating a government occurred in Italy in the 1970s with the P2 Lodge. This was a rogue Masonic lodge headed by Licio Gelli, a man with deep ties to intelligence agencies. The P2 Lodge was unlike any other. Its goal was to subvert the Italian democratic system and install a new authoritarian order. Its membership list contained over 900 names, including heads of the Secret Service, generals, and media tycoons. The scandal exploded when God's banker, Roberto Calvi, was found hanging under Blackfriars Bridge in London, a symbolic execution that exposed a web of corruption linking the Vatican, the Mafia, and the secret state. As we move into the modern era, the nature of secret societies has shifted from mystical rituals in stone tombs to sleek conference rooms and heavy security, best exemplified by the Bilderberg Group, established in 1954 to foster dialogue between Europe and North America. This annual conference brings together around 130 of the most influential people in the world, including prime ministers, royalty, tech billionaires, and bankers. Unlike the other groups, Bilderberg publishes a list of attendees, but the content of their discussions remains totally secret under the Chatham House rule, which forbids participants from revealing who said what. Critics call it a shadow world government that acts as a kingmaker for the Western world. Politicians who attend Bilderberg, like Bill Clinton, Tony Blair, and Emmanuel Macron, often find themselves promoted to higher office shortly after, fueling accusations that they are pre-selected by the global elite to serve an agenda that transcends national borders. In 1973, the network expanded when David Rockefeller and Zbigniew Brzezinski founded the Trilateral Commission. While Bilderberg focused on the Atlantic, the Trilateral Commission included Japan, effectively creating a consolidated bloc of economic power across the three industrial engines of the world. But while these political groups manage the present, there is a darker group dedicated to managing the future, the Club of Rome. Founded in 1968, this group of scientists and economists published a controversial report titled The Limits to Growth. This report argued that the Earth could not support a growing population. Conspiracy theorists have long argued that this was the foundational document for a global depopulation agenda, framing humanity itself as a problem that needs to be managed, curbed, and controlled to save the planet. Sitting even higher than these think tanks, according to former intelligence officers, is the legendary Committee of 300, also known as the Olympians, tracing their lineage back to the British East India Company. This group allegedly represents the old black nobility of Europe, ancient royal bloodlines who have merged with modern banking families to run the world not through governments but through commerce and control of resources. They do not seek fame, they seek silence. They operate on the belief that they are the divinely appointed shepherds of the human herd, and that the common citizen is too distracted by entertainment to notice the cage being built around them. To understand how these groups maintain power, we must follow the money. And the trail leads to a secret meeting that changed the world forever. In November 1910, 6 of the most powerful bankers on Earth met at a private railway station in New Jersey. They boarded a train with blinded windows, sworn to absolute secrecy, and traveled to an exclusive hunting club on Jekyll Island off the coast of Georgia. For 9 days, men representing the Rockefellers, the Morgans, and the Rothschilds drafted the legislation that would become the Federal Reserve. They created a central banking system that sounds governmental, but is actually privately owned. This gave a small group of unelected bankers the power to print money out of thin air, loan it to the US government at interest, and control the rate of inflation. Critics argue this enslaved the nation to debt and ensured that the real power would never lie in the White House, but in the hands of those who control the currency supply. But controlling the money wasn't enough. They needed to control the mind. This leads us to the Tavistock Institute in London. Whistleblowers have long alleged that the Tavistock Institute perfected the science of mass psychology, using pop culture, music, and media to steer the opinions of the herd. The theory is that by keeping the population in a constant state of anxiety through wars, pandemics, and social division, the public becomes traumatized and docile, willing to accept any solution the government offers. This is known as problem, reaction, solution. The elites create the problem, the public reacts with fear, and the elites offer the solution. Usually, less freedom and more control. This brings us to the public face of the New World Order today. The World Economic Forum, founded by Klaus Schwab. The WEF meets every year in Davos, Switzerland, where billionaires and world leaders openly discuss the future of the planet. Unlike the secret meetings of the past, they are hiding in plain sight. Their own promotional videos have famously predicted that by the year 2030, you will own nothing, and you will be happy. This concept, often called the Great Reset, envisions a future where private property is obsolete, replaced by a sharing economy monitored by digital IDs and carbon credit scores. Critics see it as the final step in the plan, a neo-feudalism where a small elite owns everything, and the rest of humanity rents their existence from the corporates. If the Georgia Guidestones were the warning, then Agenda 2030 is the official blueprint. Adopted by the United Nations, this set of sustainable development goals sounds utopian on the surface: no poverty, zero hunger, and climate action. But critics argue that the devil is in the details. The agenda explicitly calls for the centralized management of all resources, land, and production. In the eyes of the global elite, sustainability is often a code word for control. It implies that the average citizen consumes too much, travels too much, and owns too much. To save the planet, the argument goes, the standard of living for the West must be lowered, and the population must be herded into dense urban centers where their resource usage can be monitored and restricted. It is not about saving the environment. It is about managing the human livestock. This herding of the population brings us to the concept of the smart city, or the 15-minute city. The sales pitch is convenience. Everything you need, work, food, school, is within a 15-minute walk of your home. You don't need a car. You don't need to travel. But what happens when you want to leave your zone? In cities like Oxford, England, trial schemes have already used traffic cameras to fine residents for driving out of their designated districts too often. In a fully realized smart city, powered by 5 grams and the Internet of Things, every streetlight, camera, and sensor is watching you. If your carbon footprint is too high, the electronic gates simply won't open. Your zone becomes your open-air prison, and you are the inmate, monitored by the very infrastructure that claims to serve you. Digital ID, but how do they enforce these zones? through the digital ID. Organizations like the World Economic Forum and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation have been pushing for a universal digital identity for years. This isn't just a passport on your phone. It is the key to your entire life. It links your health records, your bank account CBSES, your internet history, and your social credit score into one permanent file. Without a valid digital ID, you become a ghost. You cannot open a bank account, you cannot buy a plane ticket, you cannot verify your age to log onto the internet. If you dissent against the system, they don't need to send police to your door. They just revoke your digital ID. Instantly, you are locked out of society. It is the ultimate kill switch for freedom. Predictive policing. With digital IDs and smart cities comes the end of privacy through artificial intelligence. We are entering the age of predictive policing. Concept straight out of science fiction. Governments are already using AI algorithms to scan social media, purchase history, and travel patterns to predict who might commit a crime or who might become a political dissident. In China, cameras with facial recognition can spot a person in a crowd of thousands and instantly display their name and credit score on a billboard for public shaming. In the West, companies like Palantir provide similar surveillance tools to intelligence agencies. The goal is a panopticon prison where the inmates behave because they assume they are always being watched. In this system, privacy is not a right. It is considered a sign of guilt. The metaverse finally, if the real world becomes a cage of surveillance and austerity, where will the people go? They will go inside. This is the purpose of the metaverse. As the quality of life in the physical world declines as housing becomes unaffordable, travel becomes restricted, and food becomes processed synthetic sludge, the elite offer a digital escape. Why own a real home when you can own a digital mansion? Why travel to Paris when you can visit a VR simulation? The metaverse is the ultimate digital pacifier. It is designed to keep the population distracted, entertained, and docile while the real world is stripped of assets. It is the modern version of Rome's bread and circuses. Give them cheap entertainment, and they won't notice they are wearing chains. Transhumanism, the human hack. But the final frontier of control isn't just your wallet. It is your biology. Klaus Schwab of the World Economic Forum calls this the fourth industrial revolution. He explicitly states that this revolution will not just change what you do, but change who you are. This is the rise of transhumanism, the merger of humans and machines. Through technology like Neuralink and gene editing, the goal is to hack the human being. Historian Yuval Noah Harari, a top advisor to the WEF, has famously declared that humans are now hackable animals, and that the idea of free will is over. If a government or corporation can monitor your biometric data, your heart rate, your brain waves, your hormones, they can know what you are feeling before you do. They can manipulate your emotions, your desires, and your voting patterns on a biological level. This creates a class system where the elite are enhanced superhumans, and the rest are monitored data points. The final verdict conclusion. So, as we look back at the Templars, the Masons, the money men of Jekyll Island, and the Technocrats of Davos, a clear picture emerges. It is not a story of random chaos, but a story of consolidation. Consolidation of wealth, consolidation of power, and now, consolidation of reality itself. The secret society of the future doesn't need robes or rituals. It needs data. We are standing at the crossroads of the greatest shift in human history. The cage being built is digital, invisible, and very convenient. But knowing the architecture of the prison is the first step to finding the key. History is written by the architects, but the future is still unwritten. It belongs to those who refuse to be programmed. Stay awake, question everything, and never stop looking for the truth. This is Squintlab. Make sure to subscribe.